Welcome to the Expansionist Podcast with Shelley Shepard and Heather Drake. In each episode, we dive deep into conversations that challenge conventional thinking, amplify diverse voices, and foster a community grounded in wisdom, spirit, and love.
Good afternoon, Heather Drake.
Hello, friends. Good afternoon. I'm so grateful to be here in the studio with you today, Shelley, and our friend, Colette Lafia.
Yes, welcome.
So excited. Welcome. Colette is a creative and a spiritual writer and a retreat leader and loves books and prayers and has been a school librarian for 20 years. How special is that?
25 years. Was it 25?
All of heaven will honor that gift that you gave those beautiful children by helping them to love books and the magic that is in books and the hope that is in books and opening other realms and other worlds to them by teaching them about books. And you just wrote a new book, Leaving the Shore, which just the title alone had Shelley and I intrigued because our particular spiritual experiences have often been transcendent and often lead us to feel like we are in the deep. Like we have left that the shore, definitely, or the little area that they say this is for the beginning swimmers. And so we have found spirit in the deep end. And so just the title alone was so empowering. And made us so interested in what you were saying. And then when we dove in, our spirits definitely said, yes to all of this. So welcome. We're so glad that you're here.
Thank you so much. It is a real joy to be here with you, Heather and Shelley.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit more about writing Leaving the Shore. What happened? Why this book? Why now?
Well, I had just finished my book, The Divine Heart, which was more of a creative nonfiction. The 3 books I wrote previously to Leaving the Shore were creative nonfiction. And I was at a loss about what to write. And so I had studied poetry in college, but became really disillusioned with it because at that time there was more of a poetry scene. And it really wasn't feeding my interior life at all. So I actually didn't pursue poetry after I left college. And yet something in me just was thinking, okay, I'll take some poetry classes. And I took this incredible online spiritual poetry writing class. And it just was the real word. It was fun. It was joyful. It was playing with language. And I just loved it. And it was a place where I could write about spiritual things, but with more play. And so I just started writing poems and secretly like falling back in love with poetry, or maybe really falling in love with poetry. And I just kept writing them. And then the book started to unfold for me in that way.
And one of the things that a reader will find is that this is not just simply a poetry book, but it's an invitation to not only to experience poetry as divine presence or a threshold, portal kind of moment into maybe exchanging the way that we've seen it as just simply words or affirmation to prayer. And I was thinking of how hopeful this could be for people who find themselves now not being able to pray like they used to be able to pray, or the things that gave them peace or comfort no longer fit. And so I was so excited about this idea of offering poetry as prayer, as an invitation into the conversation with the divine. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so what happened was, this book evolved. All my books are like that. I'm sort of a collage artist when I write. I do one layer and then I sort of discover what's in it, and then I add more to it, and then I add more to it. So I wrote the poems initially, and then I just thought, oh, wow, it'd be so great to pray with poems. And so my background is in contemplative practices. And so one of the practices that I do is called Lectio Divina, which is just a word meaning sacred reading. So it is drawn from the monastic tradition, but many people have really brought it into the contemporary landscape. And it's a way of reading that allows you to engage with it. So you're not really reading about something, you're reading with something. And so as you read, you invite the words into your heart, into your body, into your mind, and you let them meet you where you are, and you meet the words where you are. So it becomes a very personal way of praying. And so I thought, oh, this would be wonderful. This would be a doorway for people. And so the book is written with invitations for Lectio right there on the page. They're very simple. They're not instructive. They're more the way I do spiritual direction. They're invitational. They're soft, they're opening, and they just really invite people to allow the poems to be a doorway into their experiences. They're a way to touch the divine in their heart, a way to let a word or a phrase sort of move them and maybe create some wondering or curiosity. So I think, just allowing the poetry. One thing I will have a side note is just I've been doing many, many workshops with this. And what's also been great is many people that have a lot of preconceived ideas about poetry and felt like I'm not a poetry person. And by doing the workshops and the retreats and inviting people to have the permission to just jump in where it's stirring in you. Jump in at a line, jump in at an image, take it in. Because the idea with Lectio is actually you kind of like chew on the word. You let it kind of come into your body and your blood, and you just, you let it nourish you like food almost. So it's like, jump in where you are. It's just like when I work with people in direction, it's like just where you are with God is so good. Mm-hmm. That's where you need to be, not somewhere else. And so that whole permission of just jump in where you are, and that's the right place, is so important. So combining the practices that I do in the book with the poetry just has created, I think, that pathway for people.
I'm wondering, Colette, if there's a favorite one that you might want to start with as we jump into some of our favorites here today. I made a short list so far through the book, but I'm wondering if there's one that we could that you could share, and we could experience this this way of how you teach us to imagine, or teach us to pray the words, or
well, why don't I? So if I was doing this in a workshop, I would read it twice, but that's just for the sake of this. Let's just say I'll do it once. So while I'm reading, I invite you to see if there's a word, a phrase, an image that kind of speaks to you, that draws you in. And then I'll give a few more just guidance after I read it. So the poem is called Burning. And it's on page 24 in the book. Burning. Thousands of stars burn in the sky tonight. I find myself empty, find myself homeless within myself. All night, I am looking for a place to land, wanting, waiting to return to well-worn space. Stars, take me into your mystery, away from this clinging, draped over me like an old coat. You are my only companions. You stir the fire, but please, gently, don't press me the way I press myself, to settle into God, somehow to arrive. Stay with me tonight in a love that won't separate itself from us. A love that lifts this old coat from my shoulders, leaving only light, particles of stardust. So, whatever word or phrase or image kind of drew you in, just take a moment and let it settle a little more deeply. See what's stirring in you. Any thoughts, feelings, sensations. Allow a holy conversation to emerge, or even a spontaneous prayer. Now let go and rest, allowing yourself to just be with what has come and trust it. So that's very, very fast. I moved through all the stages really fast, but that gives you a little bit of a flavor of how you could work yourself
Yes.
in a prayer-like way with one of the poems.
I did so much love the way that the book is curated and really does not offer a specific direction, but offers an awareness, it felt like. And that felt very peaceful, as opposed, I think sometimes when we aren't okay with where we are spiritually and we feel like we have to get somewhere else to get something else, there was an invitation just to be and to be present and just to enter into the spirit. And so I was so grateful for it. Felt very feminine and it felt very gentle in the approach as well. And that is to people who have weary souls or people who are just tired. And I think many women find themselves in those places. This was like a balm. It was beautiful in its rendering, but also in the invitation. Not now all of a sudden you have to read 30 poems and get on your knees, but an invitation to almost bypass what we know. And I think poetry really does that for us, invites us into a deeper realm and draws us into the presence of love that's already here with us. We don't have to earn this. And poetry really draws us into that lover's place or beloved place. And I was excited by that.
The other thing I appreciate in this collection here that you've written, I have so many questions about it. Like all the questions are on this side of my brain, but the emotions and feelings are going to come out first. But I was reading an essay of someone yesterday or this morning maybe that that said that she doesn't really know how to pray. Like she learned these prayers as a young person, like God watch over, God bless our food, protect, those kinds of ways. But she said in her writing that, I'm not really sure that these are even prayers anymore, the way that I think about my relationship with God. And I wonder if you could speak to that a little bit about how you combined prayer and poetry in this way. I know much of what I've read so far is about your own personal experiences and that you've turned those into joy for people to read and to learn from. So talk to us for a few minutes about that combination, about poetry, prayer, and where this came from for you, where that deep place of connection began to happen.
I would say one of the things I'm thinking about as you're saying this is how important it is to see our lives as prayer itself, to see our experiences as prayers themselves. So, for example, I talk about, accompanying my sister in cancer and leading to her death. I talk about my infertility journey and not being able to have my own children. I talk about being with my father in Parkinson's. So I think it's the more we see our lives as the place where we really meet God, like inside of our experiences, not outside of them, not just praying about them, but trusting that the tears are a prayer. Yeah. The night not being able to sleep is my prayer. The hurt and the disappointment and feeling held in that's the prayer. That tenderness, that love, that receiving love and being loved in our own experiences. So I think what helped with the poetry is I wasn't praying about my life, or I was praying inside of my life. And I don't know if that makes sense. But when you write something, at least for me, that was the beauty of it. I could go inside of it. I didn't have to stay outside. So many of my poems feel very experiential because I was really going into the experiences. And as a result, for me, writing has always been a healing journey. I started writing, I wrote all through a lot of my books. One of my books is called Seeking Surrender. It was really about my experience of journeying with not being able to have children and what that experience, but I write about it. See, so writing for me has been a way to meet God intimately in my experiences, to pray with them, and has been a way for me to experience some healing with them. So I think what's so important, and I always tell the people I work with in spiritual direction, to let God meets us in our life right where it is. Because really that's the only place the Holy can really meet us anyway. So trying to be over here and so I think the journey of saying, yeah, my life is a prayer. My life is a poem. What I am truly experiencing, I'm meeting with the Holy One right here. And the Holy is meeting me in my real, actual life. And that is a holy place.
And what comfort it is for us to be reminded that we are not alone, not separate, not apart from the presence of our source, of that divine love of Christ and the illumination of that. So again, so beautiful. What an incredible invitation. And I loved that you actually named it. Like poetry is prayer in these things. And I think that, I've heard that danced around, but I just loved that very human experience of going, this is what I'm calling it. This is prayer. This is an invitation into conversation with something so much bigger and an awareness of something so much more than what I would have had if I had to use other language, if I couldn't use this layered language or this way of turning the prism and looking at it this way. So I was so grateful for that, again, like the naming, but also the beautiful experience. I was hoping that you could read another poem. I don't know which one it was that you wanted to share because all of them are so beautiful.
Yeah, I think I'll read Every Morning, because I know we talked about sort of the holy in the ordinary, and also the journey of trusting in that presence that permeates all our life and all we experience. This is called Every Morning, and the title flows into the first stanza. Every morning, on my way to make my cup of tea and slice of toast, I pass our cherry wood dining table, covered with scratches, dents, and water stains, rounded edges worn to the raw wood. Our table is an altar where my husband and I have for 3 decades offered our appetites, our love, our devotion. At our wedding, the Unitarian minister read in our vows, "Many days you will sit at the same table and eat and drink together." The young woman I was with radiant skin never could have known what coming to this table day after day, year after year would create. The other chairs are empty of the children we had hoped for, but we have built something together by returning here daily, as life does what it will, a weather pattern beyond our control. Yellow roses in a glass vase, silver candlesticks, home-cooked dinners, moments of silence and gratitude. We sit next to one another, not across, sometimes reaching over during a meal to touch. This table holds us, wood grain traces that bring us home to each other. And so it was just, and I invite people, see your life, the objects in your life, as sacred, as the ones you've been journeying with, the ones that hold your story, the ones where the Holy has been sharing the meals with you and through you and in you, and how your life holds sacred traces everywhere. So I guess my message is so much, it's kind of like God's, and I use the language of God, mystery, the divine, the holy, the origin, the source, is right here, right now. It's not like another life. Your spiritual life is not another life that you're looking for.
Right.
It's happening right. And it's so poignant, it's just and beautiful and important. Like it's happening right here, right now. Right now. It's so important. I just, so that's partly, I think, what I always do in my writing. Before I write anything, and as I wrote each one of these, I did pray before I wrote. I offer. Like one thing in my writing feels like an offering. And so there's something really important to me about that.
We want to pause and take a moment and let you know how glad we are that you've joined us. If you're enjoying this podcast, consider sharing it with a friend. And if you found the conversation intriguing and want to know more about what we're learning or how you can join our online community, visit our website at expansionisttheology.com.
I also love that you named your table an altar. I think very often there are places or things that people have said, like an altar is in a church, and you named our altar the actual table in our homes. And I loved that invitation into this is where our devotion is expressed. This is where our hospitality is offered to ourselves and to the world. And the table in its imagery is important to Shelley and I. And something that we want to do is help people understand that the table is bigger and wider and longer than we could have ever imagined. And that God invites us to the table wherever we are, whoever we are, at the moment that we are willing, or that we find our hunger driving us to the table. But finding the sacredness of it also being the altar.
Oh, I love that so much.
This is where you will meet God.
Absolutely. And where you meet God in your desires, in your commitment, in your longing, where you get nourished. All those things are so important to remember. And I love playing with people in the workshops that I do. It's like exploring, where is your altar? and then people naming that and what that means to them. And so if you're listening, I invite you just even thinking about that today when you're looking around and being in your space. Where's the altar? Where are the altars of your life?
That's beautiful. You mentioned something just a moment ago, and so I would like to circle back around to it, that desire is also met at the table. Can you talk a little bit about how desire draws us into the presence of the holy and what that looks like in the way that we pray, or in what it looks like? I was so moved by the poem that you just read, in that idea of unmet desires also can drive us into the presence of the holy. It can also, put up a barrier for us. But when we have those unmet desires, if we'll find the true song of desire or the deeper desire, that there can be a holy connection in that as well. Talk to us about that.
Yes, because, desire is our voice expressing a longing that I think is so important. We often can hear that so much in the Psalms, which is why I do love reading the Psalms. So much longing in that, so much desire. So I think for me, where I really started to taste that was really in meeting my desire of not being able to have a child. And how was I going to meet God in that? That usual, pray for something and then, be one of the blessed people where it happens, so that whole paradigm, I was really confronting that. And what I found was in my tears and in my longing, I had such a desire to meet the holy there. So in my unmet fulfillment, when I dug deeper, there was a desire to meet God there. And so what I started to see was my desire, my deepest desire over time has been to really meet the divine in all that's happening, in all of my life, and to trust in that loving presence and grow a relationship with that loving presence that is right there with me, meeting me in my unfulfilled moments, in my unfulfilled life, things that in my wanting, my unfulfilled wanting. So a lot of desire is what I've grown in over the years, which is why I love to read mystics, because they have so much desire that drives them. It's so much permission to just go with that deep desire. So I hope that helps. I hope that answer can open a door for people because I know that feeling of feeling like I didn't get what I wanted. Like on a very human level, I didn't get what I wanted. And to sit with God in that and to let the deep love in. That there's so much love that can be met in pain, actually, in sorrow, in moments of sorrow.
Could we extend that a little bit? I don't know what page I lifted this from in the book, but this leaped off the page, and I think it has to do with longing a little bit and maybe desire. But you mentioned just a few minutes ago that the mystics, they were sort of uninhibited to allow their passion and their desire and their longing to be heard. And this stuck out to me in your book. What is your long song, child of life. I yearn to hear it.
Yes, that is in my poem. That is, yes, a plea from the beloved. So, you know, that, and it is, why don't I read it? A plea
Okay.
from a plea from the beloved. Come here, come here. Feel the warmth gathering inside you. Child of life, awaken to yourself. Look into your own eyes. Listen to your own voice. Feel your heart beating. Know that your life is a blessing to the great wholeness. You are a shaft of light, a radiant heart, an arrow piercing time. A sparrow spoke today in his long song, a song that did not limit itself. What is your long song, child of life? I yearn to hear it.
Yes. Yes, and amen. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for reading that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also curious as to, were these journal entries? Did you start the poetry as journaling, or were you just writing these as life happened? How did that evolve?
No, I would say not journal entries, but a lot of free writing.
Mm-hmm.
So I did a lot of free writing. So where I might just time myself, might just write and then go back in and sort of pull pieces or words that started to unfold, or and then I would go back and do some more free writing and allow it to shape itself from that. So that was part of it. And then a group of these poems also come, and this is a wonderful exercise I give to people. I was in, it was called a soul food writing course. And you would take objects from your life that had been significant. I think that's where the table came from. So you go through periods of your life, and before you wrote, you might just brainstorm, like, let's say 5 objects from the ages 40 to 45, just five objects that kind of feel like they symbolize or they represent or they speak to that period. And then you would take one and do some more writing. So that was just, and I wrote quite a few poems with using very specific objects, because I do love specificity. As you can see, I love like storytelling in my poems as well. So I would say mainly it came from a lot of what I call notebooking, not necessarily journaling.
Okay.
But they overlap for sure.
Yeah.
I had a question about discernment and your process of what that looks like. You clearly are discerning different things that are happening, or an awareness of something. And did that come from prayer? Is that because of prayer, or is there a discernment that leads you to the prayer?
I think all of those.
Okay.
And I think too, as I was writing these poems, one thing I was very interested in and because I am also trained as a spiritual director, I'm very interested in listening. So I would listen to the poem. I would listen to the thread. I would listen to sort of what is emerging here. How does God want to be revealed in my journey that I'm speaking about in this poem? So I was discerning all throughout. And as I said in the beginning, I did very intentionally pray before I wrote the poems, so that what was coming through felt like it was kind of God and me together, because I really love creativity, where creativity and spirituality touch. I love that relationship so much. I'm very interested in that. Does that feel like it answers your question or helpful?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's no necessarily right or wrong, but I'm interested always in the discernment of what does it look like to learn to hear God in ways that maybe you weren't trained before or you've experienced God.
Yeah, I'm glad I asked you the follow-up, because I'll tell you what I love about that. And I did learn this in spiritual direction and I love it. Where I'm surprised, like, ooh, like when I said something, when I wrote something, I'd be like, ooh, that's really risky. That's really vulnerable. That's really raw. Go with it. Trust it. So it's that kind of feeling, like learning to be more vulnerable. I think for myself is a way of hearing the movement of spirit more and more. And I would say also places of surprise. Wow. Is also a place of hearing spirit. And when a feeling might really get stirred up, like, ooh, this is tender, but there's some healing here, or there's something honest here. And then risk, like, do I dare say that? Yes. I would go with it like that. So I think those are some new places. Yeah. So I'm glad we asked the follow-up, because I think I love that. And I think we're always discovering how to hear the Holy One. And if we take that perspective of discovery, exploration, openness, a lot can open up with that.
I know we're coming up on our time here, but I'm curious about spiritual direction. If you could share a couple of things that you maybe have seen over the years, or have noticed that that blocks our openness to this holy oneness, or keeps us from getting closer to something like a Mechthild or a Hildegard experience. Talk to us a little bit about that. I know everybody's spiritual journey is different. It's unique, to them. But do you notice things that?
Well, I think even what you just said, spiritual journey. So that's a certain way of looking at your spiritual life that's very different than, I know it, these are my belief systems. So already that's so different when you even use that kind of language, when you think about it. One as a journey, and one is journeying, one is discovering, there's an unfolding, there's a not knowing, there's change there, versus, I've arrived kind of attitude. So I think a lot of people come to spiritual direction because they're seeking what we call in spiritual direction the more. They're sensing there's something else. There's something more. I've broken out of this, but I don't know quite what to do with it, and so we create like an environment where, okay, let's talk about it, and not to be afraid of that, to talk about it, to let it kind of get messy, like in the creative process, how you let everything get kind of messy for a while, and that's sort of how you create something, and just the freedom for that. So I think what can block people is number one, not number one, but one way is I notice with people, they don't see that their own life is their spiritual life. It's still this sense of something else. I go to church, I go outside of myself, and that's where spirit is. So once people can sort of bring it home, I mean, really bring it home, I think a lot starts happening in that. They start to see their lives as holy places, sacred places, and allow themselves to be met right where they are. And also the freedom to challenge, to explore, to not know, to be curious. So I think all these things, and then sometimes people are having experiences like, I have nobody to talk to about it, like mystical experiences, like, having a safe place where they could start talking about this, and creating an environment where they can talk about their spiritual experiences. Also, I think is really, really helpful.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, I love spiritual direction. Yeah.
Yes.
Yay. Can you give us a few of the mystics that you're inspired by, or top 5?
Yeah, definitely Mechtild, the Magdeburg. Julian of Norwich is somebody I've really loved. Teresa of Avila, I really kind of love as well. So I would say those 3 are definitely my trinity in some ways.
Preach that.
That's beautiful. Talk to us about one thing that you would maybe invite someone who's interested in having an embodied experience, or a relational moment with the Creator, with our center, with the Spirit who is inviting us into more. How would a person set the stage, or what would consent look like, or what would that invitation include?
The invitation really includes trusting, or just even dropping in. Like, you don't even have to go right to trust. Just dropping in and connecting with an indwelling presence that is in you. So as simple as the breath, breathing in, breathing out. I am breathing with the Divine One. The Divine One is breathing with me. Just as simple as that. I am here, you are here, we are here together. And just starting to just, even through the gift of this body and this breath and this heart, just knowing it's right here. It's right here. So simple. You could light a candle. You could just sit for a few minutes with yourself, just in breath, and bring your feelings. Like many times people just, bring a tear, bring a desire, bring a feeling, bring a gratitude, bring a joy right into the moment. But I would say really a simple, immediate way is connecting with the breath and the body as that embodied place, that you are not separate. You are made of divine DNA, and it is breathing in you, through you, and as you. And just connecting with that. Just connecting with that.
Brilliant. Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you so much. Colette, this was rich.
Yes,
this was beautiful. Thank you so much. Blessings on the book. I hope that everyone buys it. We'll put it in the show notes. It's a wonderful gift, too. I was thinking it also as a gift book. Like somebody could buy it for themselves, but then if you didn't know what to buy someone for a birthday or Christmas, this is a lovely invitation into a deeper or richer, truer spirituality in each person's journey. So I thank you so much for your time. Would you like to leave us with one more poem?
Absolutely. I'll do a short one, because I'll do this one because I was just at my school yesterday visiting my students. It's called In a Breath of Time. The school is never quiet. The constant chatter and pitch of voices swirl and whirl, filling the air. Bursts of laughter and shouts bubbling up. I am walking down the hallway at a slow pace, cradling my small bowl of soup, just heated up in the teacher's lounge, when something begins to shift. Each distinct presence, this child, that adult, her voice, his footsteps, ascends, rises, lifts, and fuses together into a collective hymn, flowing over me like vapor. This is what love is doing in our daily labors, collecting and binding us into holy belonging, holy becoming, a continuous exchange, everything circular, rising, then descending, bringing me all the way back to the 6-year-old girl, asking me in her husky voice what is in my bowl. It's leek and potato soup, I say. She looks up at me, smiling. I like soup too.
Thank you, Colette.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Yes,
that was perfect. Perfect.
I know, because we spent our time in this holy belonging, holy becoming together during our time together. So I think this is what love is doing. This is love in action, just what we shared together. So it's beautiful.
Thank you for leaving the shore with us today. It's been a real gift.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes. And thank you for affirming to us that it's safe to leave the shore. We appreciate your time.
Yes.
Grace and peace to you.
You too, Heather and Shelley. Thank you so much.
It was our joy to have you listen to our conversation today. If you would like further information or for more content, visit us at expansionisttheology.com.